Imagine this. You've just watched the most heartbreaking Doctor Who scene ever made, Rose Tyler sobbing, the Doctor pounding his fists on the wall of two universes that can never meet, and your own living room filled with the sound of your heart shattering into a million pieces. Doomsday. The episode that turned even the toughest fans into puddles on the floor. Now fast forward, because Tennant and Billie Piper, yes, the duo who made us cry in 2006, are now pitching the exact opposite, a Doctor Who comedy sketch so bizarre, so tongue-in-cheek, it flips tragedy into pure parody. At a panel moderated by Collider's Maggie Lovett at FanX Salt Lake Comic Convention, Tennant and Piper cracked open a door no fan expected. What if Rose Tyler and TenToo, the human Time Lord hybrid clone created in Journey's End, got the spotlight again, not in a tragic farewell, but in a comedy sketch for comic relief? And here's the kicker, Piper didn't hesitate. She's pitched this idea again and again. In her words, I want Russell T Davies to write that for comic relief. See them domesticated, married. And then the real one comes back. Or not the real one, the first one. Or hold on. Domesticated, Rose and her copy of the Doctor living like an average suburban couple, doing the dishes, arguing over the remote. Imagine Rose rolling her eyes while TenToo insists on tinkering with the toaster because it's bit-timey, whimmy. It sounds hilarious, and yet it's the exact opposite of the tear-stained goodbye that defined their story. But it gets better. Tennant, always the chaos agent, jumped in. What if they didn't get on? And Billie, without missing a beat, she hits him with the coldest burn in Doctor Who history. Well, they wouldn't though, because he's second best, isn't he? Second best. To his face, she roasted TenToo, his own clone. Tennant admitted he was both thrilled and offended. You can almost see the Doctor himself blinking in disbelief, muttering, "What?" This is where things get fascinating, because in Journey's End, that clone was supposed to be Rose's happy ending. He had one heart, he aged like a human, and he stayed with her in the parallel universe when the TARDIS doors closed for good. Fans nicknamed him TenToo, but the story framed him as enough to love Rose, enough to give her the life the Time Lord never could. But Billie Piper has now said the quiet part out loud. In her words, he's sloppy seconds, a backup Doctor, a consolation prize. And that's exactly why the idea of turning their relationship into a comedy sketch works so well. Because deep down, even the actors know Rose didn't exactly get the Doctor she wanted. So what happens if comic relief actually greenlights this sketch? What if Russell T Davies, the man who wrote their tragic love story, flips the script and finally shows us the messy, mundane aftermath of Rose and her second best Doctor? Before I reveal the hidden fan theories about where this sketch could secretly lead, and yes, it ties into comic relief history and even the empire of the Bad Wolf comics, let me ask you this: would you actually want to see Rose and TenToo back on screen? Even if it's a parody, drop your thoughts in the comments, because I guarantee this will split fandom right down the middle. And hey, if you're enjoying this breakdown, this is the moment. Make sure you subscribe to the channel right now so you don't miss when I cover every forbidden corner of Doctor Who lore, from lost episodes to insane actor pitches like this one. Because trust me, what Tennant and Piper said next changes everything. Now here's where things get even stranger, because what Tennant and Piper teased on stage wasn't just a nostalgic laugh. It was a glimpse into the kind of forbidden timeline that Doctor Who fans have obsessed over for years. What if? Scenario that never quite left our imaginations. What if Rose Tyler and the human Doctor clone didn't get their fairy tale ending? What if it all went wrong? See, Billie Piper's pitch wasn't about some epic space opera return. She didn't suggest a movie or a 6-part spin-off. No, she wanted domesticity. Rose and TenToo married, stuck in their kitchen, doing dishes, dealing with arguments over who forgot to take the bins out. And then, suddenly, the real Doctor shows up. Awkward, hilarious, uncomfortable. The kind of tension you can only get when one man is technically the other man's superior and also his genetic twin. And then Billie drops the nuclear line. She jokes that TenToo is second best. Cue Tennant's mock, offended reaction, the crowd roaring, but fans online catching the sting behind the comedy. Because deep down, wasn't that always the truth? Rose never really got her Doctor. She got a version, a copy. A man who looked like him, thought like him, but wasn't truly him. A man without the stars in his veins, without the power of regeneration. A human being pretending to be a god. That's why this comedy pitch lands so hard. On the surface, it's cheeky banter. Underneath, it's raw, unspoken heartbreak. The forbidden knowledge fans rarely admit out loud Rose's so-called happy ending was never happy at all. It was a compromise. A story patched together to avoid leaving her broken, but never one that fully satisfied the mythology. And here's the kicker. What if Russell T Davies actually did it? What if Red Nose Day wasn't just a silly parody, but a place where he could quietly slip in canon? We've seen it before: strange sketches, alternate regenerations, and timelines that fans once dismissed as jokes later echoing back into official continuity. Remember the curse of fatal death? Once a comedy, now referenced like a legitimate regeneration footnote. So maybe Billie Piper isn't just throwing out a gag. Maybe she's testing the waters. Maybe she knows fans would eat this up. Imagine the meta chaos, Rose Tyler stuck in a love triangle with two Tennants, one real, one not. The fandom wouldn't just laugh, they'd argue for years about what it meant, whether it counted, whether Russell had secretly revealed the truth that Rose's so-called happy ending was doomed from the start. Because here's the forbidden theory: what if TenToo and Rose didn't last? What if this comedy sketch is actually a cover for that revelation? What if the BBC used Red Nose Day to finally confirm that the greatest love story of modern Doctor Who was always a tragic illusion? And if that happens, then everything we thought we knew about Rose Tyler's ending unravels. So let's push this theory to its absolute limit. If Russell T Davies did bring back Rose Tyler and TenToo for a Red Nose Day sketch, what if it wasn't just for laughs? What if it was the slyest way possible to reopen one of the most iconic storylines in Doctor Who history without triggering fan outrage? Think about it. Disney now co-produces Doctor Who. They want nostalgia. They want iconic characters who can sell subscriptions, merchandise, and headlines. Who checks all those boxes? Rose Tyler, the face of the revival, the woman who made millions of people fall in love with the TARDIS all over again. If Russell wanted to sneak her back into the canon without committing to a full spin-off, what better way than a so-called charity sketch? It's disposable until it isn't. And this is where things get dangerous. Because once you introduce the real Doctor walking back into Rose's life, even as a joke, you open a door that can't easily be closed. You create a timeline where Rose might have to choose again. You create space for Disney to say, wait a second, people went wild for that. Why don't we make it real? Imagine season 16. Imagine the big final twist isn't about Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor regenerating, but about the return of Rose Tyler, the real one. Pulled back from her parallel world, forced to confront the truth, her happy ending was never real. TenToo wasn't enough, and now she's older, wiser, and standing in front of the TARDIS again. Does that sound impossible? Maybe. But remember, Russell T Davies is the king of smuggling heartbreak into comedy. He's done it before. The end of time was meant to be a goodbye, then suddenly Rose shows up on a street corner. A blink, a smile, a dagger to the heart. What if Red Nose Day becomes the next dagger? And let's not forget, in Doctor Who comics, Rose and TenToo already had a daughter Maya, barely touched in canon, but still out there. What happens if this sketch slyly acknowledges her? Suddenly, you're not laughing at a domestic sitcom, you're staring at the foundation of a brand new spin-off, Rose and Mia, the Doctor's Lost family. The what if the BBC never wanted to answer because the truth was too messy. But maybe that's the point, because this whole idea, Rose married to the wrong Doctor, Tennant joking about sloppy seconds, Billie Piper insisting she'd love to do it, isn't just comedy. It's a reminder that for every happy ending the Doctor hands out, there's always another side, another version, another tragedy hiding in plain sight. And maybe, just maybe, this Red Nose Day pitch isn't about laughs at all. Maybe it's a warning. A tease. A glimpse of the forbidden knowledge Russell has been sitting on since 2008. Because Doctor Who isn't really about heroes getting happy endings. It's about choices. And Rose Tyler's choice may not have been the ending we thought it was. So here's the question I'll leave with you. If Russell T Davies actually did it, if he brought back Rose Tyler, not in a spin-off, not in a cameo, but in a so-called comedy sketch, would you treat it as canon? Or would you dismiss it as a joke, even knowing Doctor Who's long history of turning jokes into prophecy? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because if Billie Piper gets her wish, if Tennant plays along, and if Russell writes it, we might be about to witness the most bizarre, heartbreaking, and hilarious return in Doctor Who history.